How does the human brain deals with pain? Especially with the terrible pain of losing a child. How do we cope? And how does the people around us are influenced by that? In the movie The Twin, a grieving mother is pushed to the brink by the death of one of her sons. If you want to find out how she deals with it, then join me for this short review video. Rachel and Anthony had twin boys, Elliot and Nathan. While Elliot was always the calm one, the nice one, Nathan had a wild soul. During a car crash, the unthinkable happened. One of her sons, Nathan, died. And while the whole family is grieving, her grief also comes with additional pain for the rest of the family, because she cannot stop grieving, giving Elliot the idea that his mother maybe loved Nathan more than him. And of course also the marriage and the relationship to Anthony suffered. While Anthony is very supportive, which is understandable because losing a child is the most terrible thing that can happen to a person. And though he seems to have been working through it a little bit better than she has, of course he, better than anyone else, can put himself in her shoes. However, to have a new start, because everything at home was reminding her of Nathan, the whole family moved to Finland, into a rural area. But instead of a new start, new problems are waiting here, because the people around are acting very strange. And soon Elliot also started to behave very weirdly, starting to pretend to talk to his dead brother and sometimes even pretending to be him. Something that started after he was touching an ancient wall that is supposed to grant you wishes. While everyone around her starts to gaslight her, Rachel is convinced that there is a conspiracy at play. Maybe there is a satanic cult who tries to get her son and sacrifice him? I don't want to dive too deep into the synopsis and stop here, because even the question about maybe a satanic cult being at play is something that is posed quite early on, comparatively. However, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie that is a little bit dissatisfying. But this, of course, would contain spoilers, and these I put into the spoiler zone at the end of the video, in case you are interested. Beside the fact that it was a little bit annoying that this is like the 4th or 5th movie this year on the Fantasy Film Fest, which starts with a family moving to the rural countryside just to get a new start, which is not that original, so maybe come up with something else in the future. The movie doesn't have big problems when it comes to cast and technical merits. So technically everything is well done, and the actors are also doing their best to bring the story to life. I heard conflicting opinions about how well the acting of a child actor in the lead, Tristan Ruggeri as Elliot, was coming across. Personally, I thought he was doing a good job, but I think people were annoyed that obviously he was cast because he seems to be kind of a lookalike of Gaten Matarazzo from Stranger Things. But as this is obviously not his fault, I cannot hold it against him. But just to be clear, I also don't mean that to bash Matarazzo. This is meant towards casting agents who seem to just cast people based on their looks and the taste of a current moment, instead of looking for unique qualities. So of course now you are asking if technical merits and acting was fine, then what bothered me? And of course, as usual, it's the screenplay. Here again, you have a lot of stuff that is not really logical when it happens, and you are thinking maybe they just botched the screenplay. But then at the end, they come up with a twist that explains some of it, but not everything. And the explanation itself is really stupid. But as I said before, I will go into details in the spoiler zone. Let me just say one thing before we go to the rating. There is the concept of the unreliable narrator, and this is used here quite heavily. But what they did at the end of the day is lying to their audience, because they were showing us something that cannot be. And as I am part of the audience, I personally don't like it being lied to, because that is breaking an unspoken contract between the movie and myself. But what that exactly means, you will hear later. So now let's look at the rating. And as I don't want to spoil you, I also have to make this one short. The movie had potential, and with a better screenplay, it might have been a nice one or even good. But now it is barely scratching at average. Because as I mentioned, there was a lot of stuff going on that doesn't make much sense, and especially lying to its own audience is a cardinal sin that I cannot forgive a movie that lightly. There are of course movies that are still good, even though they lied to us, like Haute Tension, who you might know under the title High Tension or Switchblade Romance. But here they were pretty much no redeeming factors, at least not for lying at us. So now scoring this movie with 4 out of 10 points, saying it is okay and is fine to be watched once, still almost feels to be a little bit too gracious, but let's still go with that. And I'm saying that because mainly up to a certain point the movie was actually quite atmospheric and thrilling and overall did a good job. But at a certain point it was just failing us, and when it did, it was failing so big that it could not be excused anymore. So now, if you don't want to get spoiled but enjoyed this video so far, please like it now before you leave. And if you are not a subscriber yet, maybe consider to change that. By also hitting the notification bell, you will get a heads up for most of my new videos. And now, if you don't mind spoilers or have already watched the movie, then please follow me into the spoiler zone. Well, I tried to make it short and jump right into it and spoil it all. So Nathan died a while ago in a car accident. But Nathan was not a twin. Nathan was an only child. So Elliot never existed. Elliot was just a figment of her imagination. And Anthony was just going along because he didn't want to put his wife into a mental hospital. Therefore, of course, everyone who was interacting with her was telling her that she is not well. Something that she then considered to be gaslighting. But of course, she was the one trying to gaslight everyone else without knowing it. That would have been an okay twist, but there were some other issues. Like that she was interacting with a woman who apparently has supernatural intuition and knew things that she couldn't knew but still didn't feel anything about Elliot not being real. She was portrayed as not being a charlatan, so either she should have known better or it did not make any sense to bring her in. Because that only added a supernatural element to the movie that just wasn't there because there was no supernatural stuff going on. The main thing, and this is why the movie was scored quite low and really pissed me off, is the fact that I had the idea from the very beginning that her son is not even real. And I was also aware of the concept of the unreliable narrator. So I was aware that maybe we were seeing everything through her eyes and therefore were seeing her son. But if that is true, then, and that is what I was referring to earlier on, then we could not have seen him without her being around. And yet we did. And those scenes convinced me that the kid at least has to be real and that there need to be some other conspiracy going on. And as they then revealed the thing that was so obvious from the start, but they lied to us to just get away with it, I really was offended. And that really spoiled the whole movie for me. Even to the point that I am right now thinking about scoring the movie even lower. And don't get me started on the fact that due to that lie, they needed to make her husband explain everything to her and therefore to us, because the plot wasn't self-explanatory anymore. Which I also consider to be a sin, if everything has to be explained to you due to a lack of proper writing. And there is so much more humbug going on at the end, which I will spare you from, in case you still want to watch the movie. So, what about you? Do you like movies that lie to you? Or can you at least forgive them for doing so? Or is it also something that is an absolute no for you, like it is for me? Whatever it is, let me know in the comments. So much for now, see you next time and thanks for watching.